Liverpool are walking into Paris at the worst possible moment because right now, this team isn't just losing, it's losing control. And against PSG, that's exactly what gets you punished. Let me show you exactly why. Look at this. The gap between Liverpool's midfield and defense. This is where PSG will win the game because PSG don't just attack, they attack through spaces like this. Liverpool's midfield is giving away far too much space in the center. And right now, it's almost like a highway for PSG. Watch how Vitania and Neves position themselves. They're not just waiting for openings, they're actively creating them by drawing midfielders out of position. This isn't a subtle error. Liverpool are leaving clear vertical lanes where PSG can pass, combine, and immediately threaten the centre backs. Look at this sequence here. Liverpool's defensive mid drops slightly, but the next midfielder is already dragged out wide. And that gap, that's exactly where PSG thrives. They don't just attack randomly, they exploit positional weaknesses, waiting for the moment Liverpool's midfield stretches and breaks. And when that midfield line is broken, it's not just one on one exposure. Suddenly, Liverpool are defending a 4v4 in central areas against Dembele, Barcola, and Kvaratskhelia. Am I saying that right? But also whoever drops from PSG's midfield. And that's chaos. The backs are forced to cover more ground. The fullbacks get dragged out, and the compactness that Arne Slot demands, that's gone. And it's not just about structure, it's about the psychological impact. When your midfield is so easily bypassed, the team starts chasing shadows. You see players closing down spaces too late, and PSG are already in the final third before Liverpool even realign. So the takeaway here is critical. If Slot doesn't fix the disconnection, PSG won't just score once. They'll dominate central zones repeatedly. And every time Liverpool's midfield breaks, that probability of chaos in the defensive third, that spikes. And as we'll see, the fullbacks pushing high only worsens the problem. So Liverpool's fullbacks are pushing extremely high, right? And that's a classic Slot strategy to create width in attack. But here's the problem. When PSG transition quickly, those same fullbacks are caught out of position. Watch Hakimi in particular. Now, imagine Liverpool's left back is up the pitch. There's a direct channel on the flank that PSG can exploit instantly. It's not just about speed, it's also about numbers. And when the fullbacks are high, Liverpool's midfield has to cover the extra ground. But as we just saw, they're already stretched. That means PSG can overload one side, isolate a centre back, and either cut inside or whip across. This isn't theoretical. This is exactly what breaks teams in Europe's. High fullbacks combined with a stretched midfield creates a twofold danger. Number one, the numerical advantage in the wide areas. So PSG can 2v1 against a fullback and a winger or drag a centre back out of position. And number two, the central exposure. Once a fullback is drawn out, the central channel opens, and Kvaratskhelia, Barcola, or Dembele, they can drift into pockets between the centre back and the midfield. If Liverpool doesn't adjust the positioning of their fullbacks or slow PSG's progression, these channels will be exploited repeatedly. And Slot's team risks being reactive, chasing the ball and conceding control of the tempo. The takeaway is that high fullbacks, they look aggressive in attack. But against a team like PSG, it's a double-edged sword. They create space in wide and central zones that PSG will happily exploit. And without compactness from the midfield, the defensive awareness from the fullbacks, Liverpool aren't just vulnerable, they're predictable. And Liverpool under Slot are aggressive in pressing. I'll give them that. The high lines, the intensive forward pressure. But here's the risk. When that press fails, the central midfield and centre backs are exposed. And PSG have players like Vitania, they've got Neves, and these are guys who are excellent at dropping between lines and exploiting these moments. So notice how one misstep in the press opens a lane straight into Liverpool's defensive spine. And suddenly, someone like Van Dijk or the nearest other centre back, they forced to cover multiple attackers while the midfield scrambled to recover. And against a team with quick, technical attackers, this is exactly the chaos that PSG thrive on. High pressing is meant to force errors, but if Liverpool lose shape, it creates a threefold danger. Stick with me here. PSG can rotate passes quickly, right, between the midfielders and the forwards, and dragging defenders out of position. Secondly, with the fullbacks high and the midfield stretched, each central defender can easily become 1v2 or 1v3 in critical zones. And the third thing is any intercepted pass by PSG instantly becomes a counter attack with multiple players in attacking position. So if Slot doesn't adjust the compactness and the communication during the high press, Liverpool risk repeated central collapses. And this isn't just about losing the ball, it's about losing control of the game, giving PSG both the space and the confidence to dominate. And once again, as mentioned, Liverpool's fullbacks push very high under Slot system. And in theory, this does stretch the opposition and provides width in attack. But here's the problem. When the possession is lost, the recovery speed isn't enough to cover the wide channels. PSG's attackers are lightning fast, and especially in exploiting these gaps. Think about Hakimi, Dembele, Barcola. These names will keep coming up. But they can isolate the fullback 1v1 almost instantly. And because Liverpool's centre-backs are often dragged wide to cover overlaps, the entire defensive shape is now stretched. So you have a couple of problems. And the wide attackers get free space to run at fullbacks, forcing rush decisions or fouls. Or, when centre-backs move to cover wide threats, it opens central lanes for PSG's attacking midfielders. In another scenario, the midfielders aren't always positioned to help cover the flank quickly, creating repeated 2v1 or 3v2 situations. If Slot doesn't adjust the recovery triggers and positional discipline, PSG will repeatedly exploit these channels. This isn't about conceding crosses. It's about losing control of wide zones, letting PSG dictate the tempo or creating overloads that are almost impossible to defend under pressure. After recent heavy defeats, including that 4-0 collapse against Manchester City, Liverpool are carrying a psychological weight as well. And players admitted, Virgil van Dijk said it, they gave up at moments. And this isn't just about losing the ball. It's about what happens immediately after. The team struggles to recover mentally when under sustained pressure. The confidence drops, decision-making slows, and hesitation spreads across the field. And this leads to a couple of problems. Even in defensive situations or positions, they tactically correct. Players hesitate on challenges or when covering space. Mental lapses, they cause the midfield and backline to drift and that really open central and wide channels. And when Liverpool are behind, they overcommit to attack, leaving a team like PSG free to counter. If Arne Slot doesn't address this resilience issue, Liverpool won't just lose tactically. They lose control of the game mentally too. And PSG can exploit these lapses repeatedly, scoring in bursts and forcing Liverpool to react instead of dictate. And that's the pivotal point. Tactical fixes can only go so far if the team's mental framework is fragile. Liverpool's biggest danger isn't just during set plays or sustained pressure, it's in transition. The moment you lose possession, gaps appear instantly. And PSG's forwards are lightning fast, and Vitania and Neves know exactly how to exploit the spaces left by Liverpool's advancing fullbacks and unbalanced midfield. When Liverpool's midfield and fullbacks push forward, they leave central channels and half spaces exposed. We know that. And PSG's transitions quickly create 3v2 or 4v3 situations, forcing Liverpool into reactive defending. Players like Dembele, Barcola, or Guavazzela, I keep saying his name wrong, but they can stretch the pitch in seconds, pulling centre backs out of position and isolating Van Dijk or Konate. And if Slot doesn't tighten the team's transition response through quicker recovery runs or better midfield cover or compactness, PSG will exploit this relentlessly. This isn't a one-off danger, it's a repeated threat that can decide the game in moments. Transition moments will define whether Liverpool survive or whether they crumble. Liverpool have struggled defending corners as well, and free kicks also this season. And against PSG, that problem is magnified. While players like Varvetsela and Dembele are delivering precise balls into dangerous areas, even one lapse in marking can lead to a high-quality chance. And Van Dijk and Konate are strong, but PSG's movement and their timing in set pieces can overwhelm them, especially in Liverpool's midfield. If they don't drop to cover those second balls, it's tickets. So, here's what they need to look out for. Liverpool's zonal or mixed marking can be pulled out of shape by clever movement, leaving gaps at the near and the far post. So they'll need to watch out for that. And midfielders often fail to clear rebounds or lose balls, allowing a team like PSG to sustain pressure immediately. They can't allow that. The third thing is knowing they're vulnerable on set pieces forces Liverpool to overcommit defenders in open play, and that leaves them exposed in transition. So set pieces aren't just a threat, they're a potential game decider, and PSG will study Liverpool's tendencies. And even one well-executed free kick or a corner could break the team's confidence. Slot must enforce tight marking, anticipation and midfield cover to minimize this risk. So, there you have it. 7 points that define why PSG versus Liverpool is more than a match. It's a test of structure, of discipline and transitions, and also mental resilience. Liverpool must fix midfield compactness, defensive balance, transition recovery, and that set piece organization. If they fail in even one of these areas, PSG will punish them swiftly. This is what we do. We don't just watch football, we understand it.